We all have moments when regulation isn't available, when the brace doesn't soften, when the body stays tight, when safety isn't here yet. Polaris matters because it gives us a way to stay in relationship with ourselves without forcing us to return before we're ready. It reminds us we are not lost, we're simply just not home yet, and that's okay. You're listening to Reweaving Systems from Nervous to Regulated. I'm Jana Shalom, educator, multidimensional weaver, and your real-time nervous system master regulator. This is not a podcast. This is an attunement lab and the audible expression of a living transmission called Weaving Legacy. Here we move through a living sequence, a truth that shakes something loose. Then the pause. Feel our bodies, the bracing, the breath, the return. We don't regulate perfectly, we regulate together. And once we're back with ourselves, we name the systems that taught us to disconnect in the first place. Because programs don't change people. Regulated people change people. This is where we shift from the survival spiral to the re-inhabiting spiral, where we learn to come home to ourselves in real time, where the sanctuary garden door opens from the inside. If your nervous system has been waiting for a place to relax into truth at a pace that it actually needs, then welcome home. This is the voice of a living lineage. Let the transmission call us back into our bodies. Let the weaving root into our daily lives. This is Reweaving Systems from Nervous to Regulated. I'm Jana Shalom. You're listening to Episode 3 in the first Moon Loom arc, titled Polaris, Orientation when the return isn't available. Today's episode arrives on the full moon, a moment for release, truth, and integration. This is where we let go of what we've been carrying and listen for what's ready to move. Sometimes noticing the brace doesn't soften it. Sometimes the body stays tight. Sometimes the nervous system doesn't feel safe enough to return yet. That doesn't mean we are failing. It means we are human. Regulation is not a demand to conquer. It's not something we force. And it's not always accessible in the moment, especially when we're inside grief, inside trauma, and especially when we're inside systems that continue to be unsafe. When the body can't come home yet, we don't override it. We don't force softening. We reorient. We find something steady enough to hold us in the meantime. Orientation is not calm. Orientation is direction when settling isn't available. It's how the nervous system stays in relationship without forcing resolution. When Shalom can't come home yet, Polaris helps us stay oriented until she can. In this lineage, we call this orienting point Polaris, our nervous system's North Star. Polaris is what we orient toward when return isn't available yet. We say, Polaris, orient my awareness. For the times when the brace doesn't soften, and the times when the body cannot yet come home, when safety is not yet present, our choices are limited. Polaris answers this question. When I'm not able to calm down, what can I still look to as a guiding point? Polaris does not make the pain go away. Polaris does not rush the body. Polaris helps us remember, I'm still here, I'm not lost, this moment too shall pass. Sometimes the most caring things we can do is to stop pushing for regulation and stop long enough to help our body understand where it's at. The orientation is about staying present without abandoning ourselves. Polaris steadies us before the return is possible. So, before we're calm, before we release, before we soften, we're allowed to orient our direction. Orientation is how we acknowledge reality without shaming the survival spiral. For many people, regulation isn't something that they can access right away. Not because they're doing it wrong, but because the bracing has been what has kept them alive. Bracing is how people stay employed. Bracing is how they stay housed, how they stay protected inside systems that really don't offer true safety. When our nervous systems learn that softening means danger, bracing becomes wisdom. I want to read you something I wrote about how survival gets passed down through generations, shaped by systems that demanded endurance long before safety was possible. Too good to be true, the phrase that crashed against my ancestors' inner knowing. Just when they thought they'd caught the goose in the noose, they realized it was their own necks that were tied. Generation after generation, wound after wound, embodied inheritance carried forward until the day someone could finally stop and orient. Now too good to be true crumbles at the feet of my ancestors, where they wailed and kinged, low vibrating tones moving through roots and bones, guiding us back to our origin point, Polaris. The nervous system orientation to reality our ancestors were never allowed to taste. So much of what we call nervous system dysregulation isn't personal at all. It's the inherited and ongoing impact of systems built on extraction, disorientation, and survival without refuge. When we orient, we're not asking the body to calm down. We're helping it answer one question: where am I right now? Orientation gives us direction without demand, naming where we are. Steadiness without force. What is our North Star purpose? And presence without pressure. So Shalom is welcome to come home when she's ready. It's how we stay with ourselves without asking ourselves to be different. Orientation is not about pretending everything is okay. It's not positive thinking, and it's not a spiritualizing pain. Orientation says, this makes sense. We adapted for a reason. We don't have to let go before our bodies know where they are at. This is how we honor survival without abandoning ourselves again. We all have moments when regulation isn't available, when the brace doesn't soften, when the body stays tight, when safety isn't here yet. Polaris matters because it gives us a way to stay in relationship with ourselves without forcing us to return before we're ready. It reminds us we are not lost, we're simply just not home yet, and that's okay. Some of us don't have the luxury to override the brace. For many people, bracing is how we stay employed, stayed housed, stayed protected, and stayed alive. This work does not shame that reality. It tells the truth about it. Orientation is how we respect what survival costs, without pretending it's the end of the story. When we orient, the spiral slows down. Urgency loosens, and choice becomes possible again. Not because the world suddenly feels safe, but because we're no longer lost inside of ourselves. Orientation creates enough grounding for the next step to appear. When we notice bracing appear in our bodies and return isn't available yet, we don't fix, we don't force, we don't analyze, and we don't critique, shame, or blame. We ask, what am I orienting toward right now? This is how Polaris keeps us in relationship with Shalom, even before the return. Not to escape the moment, but to remember our direction. Polaris doesn't just tell us where we're at. It reminds us of who we're choosing to become and how we want to meet what's arising for us. That's orientation, and that's enough. When we learn to orient ourselves, we become steadier for ourselves, which helps us become more helpful to others. We stop demanding regulation from bodies that are still surviving. This is how care becomes possible without coercion. This is how systems begin to loosen their grip on us. Return is not a command. It is a process. And when we can't come home yet, we can still orient toward ourselves. That's not failure. That's wisdom. Here is your call to action. At some point this week, stop and ask yourself, what am I orienting toward right now? Now remember, orientation is not about calming down. It's about direction. You might orient toward something steady, as in a chair, a floor, a window, something that you can see that's tangible. You might orient towards a value that you want to embody, caring, honesty, steadiness. You might orient to the reminder of who it is you're choosing to become, not who you are. We simply gently ask, what helps me remember myself here in this moment? And we gently ask, what keeps me pointed toward my North Star of who it is I choose to be in this world? Orientation happens when regulation is not available. We provide the direction before we place the demand. And now our threading for today has come to a close, not because clarity must be used, but because it has been seen. We don't rush to explain or perform what has come into view. We let truth stand without escalation. This is how illumination remains safe. Our next episode will complete the first lunar arc in our Moon Loom. During the last quarter moon on February 9th, 2026, we'll explore what happens after orientation, how return becomes possible again, how we practice coming home without forcing it. Because what we can orient toward, we can eventually return to. Polaris. Orient my awareness. You just moved through Reweaving Systems from Nervous to Regulated, the Nervous System Attunement Lab, where regulation happens in real time, where we take a breath, we feel our bodies, not perfectly, but honestly. We notice what shifted, what softened, what resisted, what came online even for a moment. If something stirred awake today, that isn't a sign that you're done. That's a sign that you're practicing the slow, steady work of returning to yourself. This work moves in spirals, not straight lines. We don't regulate once, we return again and again. Each time a little deeper, each time with a little bit more permission. And if today pushed you past your edges, that's part of the path. Edges are where remembering begins. This isn't content we're moving through. This is a living frequency, a lineage-held transmission that reshapes us as we walk it. To keep walking the path of somatic knowing, mythic remembering, and lineage weaving, meet us at Journey the Weave on Substack. And for deeper embodiment and spirit-born insight, enter Journey the Spirit Weave, our paid Substack tiered. Remember, our bodies are not the problem. Our nervous systems are not the obstacle. They are portals we are relearning how to trust. And if just one of us practices coming home to ourselves, systems begin to change. We'll see each other at the next episode. Until we weave again.